90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., part of the WHPC Sports Talk family, which is on Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., and also an additional show every Tuesday, 10 p.m. to midnight. I am Rob Leonard, and joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. Hello, brother. How you doing?
Good morning, brother. How are you? I'm doing quite
okay.
Well.
And we should say that George Vecsey will be joining us to talk about Diego Maradona, who passed away this past week. And, of course, he covered him many a times in the World Cup and among other places. And we'll talk to George about Mr. Maradona, one of the greats of all time. Definitely, one of the greats. Even though, even dead, there's some questions being raised about his life and a lot of things. So it's never a quiet thing with him. So
with a lot of celebrities like that, brother. It's kind of sad that the man just can't die and rest in peace. But like Michael Jackson and Prince and like it's a lot of famous musicians. Apparently, there have been some questions as to his passing, which is sad to see and hear.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about him with George Vecsey at about 9:20. And I thought I'd start, brother, with the New York Giants. If you would have said 3 weeks ago, if I would have said to you 3 weeks ago that the Giants could be in first place, you would have laughed at me, as you always do.
I would have said, you crazy.
And that's exactly what it's happened right now. They're tied for first place with the Washington football team.
They're in first place, brother. They
Really?
have beaten the Washington football team both times they played them, so they own the tiebreaker.
Okay, you're right. But technically, they're even right now, 4-7 right now. So,
in theory, yes, but
yes, you're right.
If the season ended today, as the saying goes, your New York Football Giants would be in the playoffs.
Right. So that's something
abominable.
That I never thought I would see or even think about after such a bad season for the Giants. But
enjoy it, Giant fans. It's only going to last about a week or so.
And, the NFL East is being called the NFL Least.
NFC Least, yes. NFC.
Yeah. What do I say? NFL?
NFL. Although it's the NFL's least also, so it's either way.
So, so the, they're not doing well, but again, they're in first place.
They're doing well recently. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, they're doing well. You can't argue that because they've won their last 3 games. So, if you only take the last 3 weeks, the Giants are a great football team. If you look at it realistically, it's kind of like the way the Jets last year finished up last season strong because they had that weak schedule in the second half. Well, look at who the Giants have played in the last 3 weeks. They played Washington, the Eagles, and now the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't even want to calculate the winning percentages for those 3 teams combined because it's awful. So the Giants are a little bit better than hideous. But that being said, after winning yesterday, beating another bad team without its quarterback, 19-17 in the Cincinnati Bengals, now the New York Giants are without their own quarterback and could very well be for the rest of the season.
Daniel Jones hurt himself, and it was one of those things where he threw the ball and he just felt pain.
Well, it happened actually on the play before that, brother. He took off on a run, had a short gain, and got up. He was on the ground for a little bit, and you saw him kind of grab at his leg. And I have no idea what Daniel Jones was thinking or what he was trying to do by staying in the game with a pulled hamstring. But there's being tough and there's being stupid, and that was stupid. Because if he tears that thing, then it's surgery, and then he's out for months. As it is, he's more than likely out for several weeks, and there's only 5 weeks left in the season. So chances are that Daniel Jones' season ended yesterday. I mean, we're gonna get the results of an MRI more than likely today, and that'll say more. But the Giants after the game, the private conversations, as they say, the Giants said it was pretty bad. So
right.
A hamstring is usually a month or so anyway, and if it's pretty bad, then Daniel Jones is more than likely done. But even by the time he comes back, let's say it's a month. Well, that's 3 or 4 games minimum. And now you're talking about coming back for the last game. Well, if Daniel Jones isn't playing, the Giants are losing their next 4. And why are you having him come back to play one game for a 4-11 team? There's no point.
No, I agree, brother. It's not worth the time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah, no, it's true. So, it's too bad he got hurt. I mean, Colt McCoy is now the new quarterback for the Giants. Sounds like a name made up in casting school.
Made up in Texas, where he played his college football.
Yeah, well,
he was one of those hook'em guys. Hey, Colt, this is why you invest in a backup quarterback, and Colt McCoy. Fine. He'd be a fine third string quarterback if the NFL in today's world, you almost have to count on your quarterback missing at least a handful of games.
Right.
And for the Giants to have Colt McCoy as their backup, I mean, let's put it this way: there's no chance that they thought before this season started, hey, we're going to be competing for a division title. Yet here we are, and it's not Phil Simms walking through that door, as Rick Pitino famously once kind of said with the Celtics. It's not Fran Tarkenton. We got Colt McCoy walking through the door. Yeah, and all that tells me is the Giants got losses coming up, and it's not a good situation. For when it was bad enough when Saquon Barkley went down with an injury. Well, the Giants went out and signed Devontae Freeman. Then he got hurt, and you know what? Wayne Gallman has been an adequate fill-in. The guy scored again yesterday. He scored touchdowns in 5 straight games. He's been an adequate replacement. Would I still rather have Saquon Barkley? Absolutely. Sure. But the drop off hasn't been as massive as Daniel Jones to Colt McCoy. So, the Giants have the Seahawks this week. There's absolutely no chance they win that game.
No, probably not. But,
so enjoy first place for the week, Giants fans. You unless the Eagles win tonight, which is highly unlikely. But if that happens, then the Giants will have enjoyed first place for one day. But it's all going to go away in a puff of smoke, in a cloud. It's going to be.
Well, it's better than what they thought 2 weeks ago, bro.
Well, yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago the Giants, they thought they were still in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. So now that's out of totally out of touch. But I mean, it's something I said a couple of weeks ago, and it still holds true because none of these teams are any good. The winner of the NFC East is going to go to the playoffs, but could also wind up with a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah, well,
when was the last time a division winner? In fact, it's never happened that a division winner, unless they had a trade with somebody, wound up with a top 10 draft pick. But it's because it's impossible, except this year in the NFC East, which is embarrassing. But that's where we are. None of these teams is all of a sudden going to become a better team and say, oh, hey, we're gonna win our last 5 of the season and take control of this division. That's not happening.
Right. No, I agree. I agree.
So it's nothing. It's nothing but it's a 4-team race to mediocrity, and none of them can even win that race. It seems. So I don't know.
No, I agree. It's just not a good. It's fun to watch it sometimes. Oh look, the Giants are in first place, but it's not there for a long time. No,
I mean it's kind of fun to laugh at it because it's such an absurdity. But let's face it. I heard something yesterday after the Giants game. I don't even remember what I was watching. I think it was some sort of Giants related show on MSG. But this phrase was actually used with well, if the Giants are planning on making a long run in the playoffs, it's like, what are you on, drugs? It's going to be a very short run in the playoffs. It's going to be one game. It's more than likely going to be a 3-touchdown loss, and that's for whatever team comes out of the NFC East. One game, 3-touchdown loss. It's a vacation game for whoever the opponent will be. And thank you very much. We're moving on. You go figure out who your top 10 draft pick is going to be.
No, I agree.
That's how bad it is. So
I agree.
It's like I said, it's kind of fun to make fun of it, and it's amusing, and it's you poke fun at the misfortune and how one bad team is going to qualify for the playoffs, and I mean, in some ways you hope it's your team because it's not going to be that big of a change as far as the draft pick goes. One of these teams is probably going to finish 7-9, maybe. I mean, it could even be a 6-10. 6-10, chances are, get your top 10 draft pick. But if you're 6-10 and you lose a tiebreaker, in fact, losing the tiebreaker in this case would mean winning the division. You're still going to wind up somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 through 12 with the draft pick. So you're still going to get a good player, and you also get I don't know what whatever they get for a playoff appearance. I'm sure there's some sort of a bonus involved, and there's a bonus involved for winning a division, but it's not going to be an earned bonus. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not. It's there. That's all it is. It's there. That's the best way to describe it.
It's there. I mean, it's obviously it's you look at the Giants and I heard some of the post game yesterday, and the players are talking. The players are saying all the right things, and I expect that now with a Joe Judge team because Joe Judge he's a Belichick disciple. He's going to say very. The message is going to be very, very focused. It's going to be Joe Judge talking about with playoffs and learning and improving as the season goes along and all kinds of stuff like that. And that's what I expect from the players, and that's what I heard yesterday. And that's a great message. I when you're 1-7 and you talk about that message. You kind of say, all right, well, whatever, because they're terrible. But now that they're 4-7 and they've actually strung 3 wins together, that message maybe resonates a little bit more because there's actual proof of improvement, even though the Giants, like I said before, have been playing bad teams.
Right.
So to be better than bad teams, I don't exactly know what that shows. But in 2020 in the NFC East, that could win you a division. Okay.
Well, we should say that the Jets lost 20-3 to the Dolphins. Anytime Ryan Fitzpatrick plays the Jets, he always plays well, to show them what they missed out on. And he did again, 24 for 39, 2 touchdowns, 257 yards. And the Jets lost 20-3, so...
Yeah, I mean the Jets defense wasn't bad yesterday. It wasn't, it was fine. And then Fitzpatrick threw a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and the game was over. But the Jets never really threatened in the game. It was nice to see Sam Darnold playing with 2 of his healthy receivers finally. But Darnold had 197 yards, I think it was, and it's. Again, it's he comes back from the injury. He's showing his teammates he's a tough guy, and he's not just going to sit out the injury and let them suffer through the 0-whatever. Now it's 0-11, by the way. But I don't know what the story is here because it's hard to say what Sam Darnold is proving right now. Is he proving he can play hurt? Yeah, sure he is, but.
He's showing he wants to play for another team. This is what
right.
we talked to JP about a couple of weeks ago.
I get that. Yeah, I mean that's and JP said it. I mean, right now Sam Darnold is playing for the rest of his NFL career. He's not playing for his Jets future because more than likely there is no Jets future.
Right.
Because if assuming the Jets do finish 0-16, and if you look at the rest of their schedule, they will finish 0-16. Sam Darnold will not be a Jet next season, more than likely, because he'll get traded before the draft. Jets will take Trevor Lawrence, and either Trevor Lawrence will be the starter next season, or the Jets will sign some experienced veteran quarterback to be their starter for the first 8 or 9 weeks, and then insert Trevor Lawrence into the position at some point next season. I don't know. It depends on how much rebuilding of the offense can be done in a span of one off season. It depends on how much the Jets can improve their offensive line in that span. I mean, there's a lot of variables that need to come together for the Jets to start Trevor Lawrence, because you don't want to put Trevor Lawrence in a position of having to be the savior from day one, especially if he doesn't have the weapons around him to actually get the job done, which has been the case for Sam Darnold for 3 seasons now, unfortunately.
Right.
So, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they said to Trevor Lawrence, look, you're not going to play this season, or you're not going to play for the first 10 or 12 games. We're going to give you a few games late in the season, but we don't want to get you hurt. You look at Joe Burrow when he had a real good rookie season, for the Bengals, and was obviously in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. But then Joe Burrow, he got hit high and low. His knee just exploded. He had ACL, MCL. Now he's surgery, and he's looking at a year's worth of rehab. So he's going to miss a good chunk of next season, more than likely, before he's ready to come back. I mean, that's a long process for everything that happened to his knee to have to come back from. And obviously the Jets would not want that to happen with Trevor Lawrence, and will do everything they can, or they should do everything they can to protect him next season.
No, I agree. It's going to be a disaster either way. I think if you were able to get him, I don't think he's going to do anything in the first. I think the Jets have a lot to prove first.
Well, the Jets have a lot of acquisitions to make. The Jets roster for this year and the Jets roster for next year more than likely they won't be much of a resemblance. Let's put it that way. The Jets their line needs to be overhauled. I don't know how much they can do in free agency, because I think that the Jets will and have been suffering from something similar to what the Knicks are suffering from in the NBA, is that players don't want to go to a dysfunctional franchise, and the Jets are a dysfunctional franchise.
Yeah,
it will help if Trevor Lawrence is the guy, because obviously a lot of people see him as a generational talent, and players will see that. But if you're a veteran player and you want to go into a place where you think you'll be able to have some success, I don't know if you're going to the place where the rookie quarterback is going to come into a team that's 0-16 and say, all right, yeah, we're making the playoffs next year. No, it's the problem. It's overwhelmingly the odds are that it won't happen.
Right.
That's the difficulty. So, how much help are they going to be able to get Trevor Lawrence? Again, assuming he's the number 1 pick, which I have to assume he will be. But that's the challenge for Joe Douglas right now. Is he needs to bring guys in, which means he's probably going to have to overpay some guys, some impact guys. But that's the danger in free agency. Will that guy? The Giants paid Nate Solder several years ago to come in and be the anchor of their offensive line, and it didn't really work out the way it should. So that's one of the challenges the Jets have to make.
No, I agree. There's a lot of things to do. It won't be just easy. It'll be a lot harder than we think. We should say that Patrick Mahomes threw yesterday for what?
Brother.
Oh, look who it is. I was looking down at the notes. Joining us on Zoom is one of the great writers of our time. He wrote a book called 8 World Cups, among other things. He longtime writer for the New York Times, and now he does other things too. We welcome back George Vecsey to our show. George, welcome back to From the Press Box. How you doing?
Nice to be back. Time goes fast, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
What was that? 2014 we were talking?
I believe it was. It was right when 8 World Cups came out. So.
Yeah, that's when we talked to.
So now I have to tell you this, George. Now this is your second appearance of the show. You now qualify for friend of the show status.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
I only have that one other place, and that's in my boys in St. Louis, who have something called Men in Shorts, because they meet in the patio outside. So I'm glad to be that.
Okay, well, welcome to our show.
I can't wait to be able to meet in a patio, because it does sound like there is probably some pints involved in that.
I'm just guessing.
Anyway, we're going to talk about Diego Maradona, who died this past week at the age of 60. Truly one of the greats in soccer ever. But at the same time, there's always a little bit of controversy with him. And Timmy and I thought, George, that we'd start off by talking about like all the good things that he did as a player and maybe other things along the way, just because it's easy to talk about the mess ups along the way. But if we're going to talk about him, let's talk about why he was so good. That's a great way to start it. So, Timmy, you have the first question.
Well, I mean, George, obviously Maradona is most known for the hand of God goal from the 1986 final. Somehow a man who was 5'5" outjumped Peter Shilton for a ball in the box. But that same match, he scored what a lot of people and what was voted as the goal of the century. So obviously a big World Cup final for Maradona that year. Just talk about the audacity that is required for a player to even think about trying to smack a ball past the goalkeeper. But secondly, just talk about just how brilliant Maradona was with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, feet, shoulders, if legal, chest, any part of his body, he could control the ball better than anybody you've ever seen. When he was a little kid, 8 or 10 or whatever it was, he was entertaining halftime crowds in the huge stadiums of Argentina with his little ball act that he could do. Here comes little Diego Maradona from the hard barrio outside the city somewhere, and he's entertaining 50,000, 80,000 people, and he had that audacity. He could control the ball not only with his feet but with the rest of his body. There are videos out there. I would suggest to your listeners to look them up online for videos of Maradona just entertaining with the ball.
Talk about the stories that I'm seeing of since Maradona's passing. I've seen several that have made references to him kind of being two people. There was Maradona, the great footballer, who obviously was one of the greats of all time. And I'm going to ask you about your rankings later on as far as that goes. But then there's also Diego, who is the person who maybe became a victim of his own fame and kind of was this hard living, hard partying, maybe kind of an adrenaline seeker who became a victim of his own success. Is that how you see him?
Yeah, I don't know if it's two people or not, but it certainly is different facets of the same person. Mm-hmm. It's a two-sided coin in that while, on the field he was a genius, in the way he lived his life, you could say he wasn't a genius, that he did self-destructive things. He did a lot of crime. He had a bunch of kids outside marriage, which, can happen, but also the drugs involved, but the audacity. I mean, the things he did, he was a god unto himself. I mean, in the middle of the season, playing for Napoli, his 3-year-old daughter asked to see wedding pictures of Mama and Papa. And they had to say, well, we're not married. And so, when your 3-year-old daughter gets on you, he scheduled a marriage. The only thing was that they scheduled a wedding in Argentina in the middle of the season. So he flew, between matches, he flew the whole entourage from Napoli to Buenos Aires. They had the reception. I guess he punched out a photographer at the reception, and then he was back for the next, or available for the next match back in Italy. But that was the, and by the way, they don't refer to him as Diego. He's Diego Armando in Italy and other places. That's just the rolling syllables of his name, Diego Armando Maradona, like a bandwagon just rolling over you.
Right.
George, one of the things about the '86 World Cup, it came after Britain invaded Argentina.
Yeah.
So there was. And it was against Argentina versus
England,
Great Britain, in the final. So it was more than just a game, wasn't it?
Well, it was a quarterfinal.
Quarterfinal,
where they met and where he victimized children. I don't remember anybody on the Argentina team making a big fight. Now maybe they did, language and where I was hearing it, but I don't remember that being a point, but anybody was welcome to make that as part of the the overview, because obviously England had gone into the Falklands or tried to reclaim it or whatever, and it was a terrible defeat. They sunk one of the great boats, great ships of the Argentine Navy, and it was very insulting for Argentina to go through that. And then here comes this match. I don't know that Maradona was thinking about that as he went up in the air against Shilton, and I don't even know that he was thinking about cheating. He just did what he could do. With great athletes. I once was there when Michael Jordan made a dunk in the Garden, and somebody said, "Have you ever made that move before?" And he just got this sneer on his face, as only Jordan could do. And he said, "Practice it every day in the gym." I suspect that Maradona had practiced that move on the pitch in practice, in games in his past, where he would get up and get it. I mean, you say he's 5, 6, 7 inches shorter than Peter Shilton, but Shilton wasn't expecting the arm to extend up above Maradona's head, and he just deflected the ball perfectly. I would have to say that, like Jordan, that was a practiced move.
I could see him doing it in practice and maybe just screwing around. It's all right. Hey, you know what? If they don't catch it, they don't catch it. And this time, for whatever reason, they didn't catch it.
Exactly. It was part. I mean, athletes do things that they've never done before. You sort of have to. An outfielder going up over a fence. It's all new territory. That fence, that day, that ball. But nevertheless, they have gone back there and they know some of the things they have to. Muscle memory.
Right.
One of the reasons there was such terrible outfielding last year in baseball, because they didn't have enough practice time in spring training, and they were all rusty, particularly outfielders.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another story for another day. But Diego Maradona was he had all those tricks. He had done all those things before, and so he knew what to do with his body. I was just today, to prepare for it, I went back in my memory to 1990 in Italy, a game in the north. I want to say, one of the northern cities. They were playing Brazil in a quarterfinal, and Maradona drew everybody to him in the center of the field. He went through 3 or 4 defenders, and he got everybody near him. And then he saw his teammate, Claudio Caniggia, making a cut from the left side, and he put one of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen in my life. And he was left-footed. He put a left-footed pass off to his left into space. Caniggia got it. He had only one defender to beat. He juked him, and then Taffarel, the goalie, the Brazilian goalies are what they are. He just juked the Brazilian goalie and made a beautiful goal. One of the most beautiful goals you'll ever see.
I mean, that was the capability that he had, that kind of vision and that kind of those feet. George, I read the story that you wrote on your website about trying to contact Maradona for a story before the World Cup.
Right.
Just talk about that. He obviously proved to be as elusive on the telephone as he was on the field.
You got that point. Yeah, in 1989, I flew to Italy to do a magazine piece for the New York Times, which means you have a lot of time. You can spend time that, expenses, blah, blah, blah. So the Times sent an interpreter with me down from the Rome bureau to Napoli for a couple of days. And I wanted to get an interview with I'm getting ahead of my story. I knew I had this interview coming up. So while I was still in the States, somebody, and I'll tell you, it was one of his promoters, one of the people whose product he advertises, and he never showed up for shoots or for interviews or so on. So the guy slipped me Maradona's home number in Napoli. So I started calling from the States, and I speak, a little bit of Italian, a little bit of Spanish, enough to do that kind of halting thing for an American to be. So I get on the phone and I figure I'm calling whatever I call. The first was in Spanish or Italian. And the guy immediately on the phone switched to the other language that I wasn't using. And then I switched, and rather than complimently, parla italiano molto bene, or whatever he might have said to me, so, blah, blah, blah. So I figured somebody in the office, I said, I'm a reporter, would like to talk to him. Here's my number. The guy professed to take the number. He sounded like maybe somebody, a manager or a housekeeper or whatever he was. I got to Napoli with a translator from the Times Bureau. watched the game where he played with Careca, his mate on the front line of Napoli, a Brazilian guy, just two great players together. And after the game, they bring in Maradona for the post-game. You can't get into the locker room, soccer. So they bring Maradona out, and I realized how short he was, only 5'5". And he comes out, and they started asking him questions. Of course, this is all being done in Italian. And Christina from the bureau was taking the notes, but I can hear some of it. And I listened, but what really interested me was I hear his voice. And I said to myself, son of a gun, that's the guy on the phone when I was back in the States calling this number and the guy was juking me then on the phone, and now I can tell. And the interpreter said, no, actually he speaks Italian quite well, and of course he speaks Spanish. So I had like Caffarel, the Brazilian goalie, and everybody, and Peter Shilton, I was had.
Did you ever get to talk to him? Did you ever get to talk to him?
No, never did. Never was in his company again that I remember. He came to America in 1994, but I wasn't around the Argentine team, and they were based up in Massachusetts. They were playing the first round based in Massachusetts. And he was thrown out after a game or two. I think they were supposed to play Greece maybe in the third match. And he broke the meter with drugs in his system. They called it a cocktail of drugs. And he was gone, never to reappear in the World Cup again.
Right. We're talking with George Vecsey. He is longtime writer was a longtime writer for the New York Times. I guess you still do freelance, I assume, along the way?
I do freelance. I've got my own website, georgevecsey.com, where I have that piece that you mentioned. And readers always welcome to come in and have their comments. And I do other stuff. But, yeah, I worked a long time for the Times. I was lucky enough to be able to have a lot of freedom. The sports columnist was a big deal in those days. You wrote 2, 3, 4 times a week, and you had to come up with your own thing. So you were like your own little fiefdom there. And I had so much freedom. And we had other columnists. I mean, Dave Anderson, Ira Burkow, Selena Roberts, Bill Roden, Harvey Arrington, just great teammates. And so you could pick your own niche. And I chose soccer as one of the things I specialized in and was able to travel all over the world. It was a lot of fun.
We're talking with George about Diego Maradona, and a lot of people say top 2 of all time. Is that close enough? I mean, we always think of Pele, at least I do, as the number one guy.
I think in the States we're conditioned to, first of all, because he played here with still something left in the tank late in his career, and that was what we heard. Whether Pele, before him, after him, Cruyff reinvented the game a little bit more cerebral. People talk about Messi. I'm not even sure that he's the best player of this time. You really ought to win a World Cup. Maybe that's a standard. I don't know. But there have been so many great players that I'd be a little hesitant to say Maradona was. I just know that he was brilliant in his time, and what else could you ask? I mean, to compare Babe Ruth with Barry Bonds or Michael Jordan with Julius Erving. I mean, it's hard. Kobe Bryant, it's hard.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be an exercise that NBA fans love to love to go through with is LeBron better than Jordan and
LeBron. There you go. I mean, when I was a kid playing schoolyard basketball in Queens, if you did something tricky, if you tried something tricky, somebody would say Cousy. Now, nobody remembers Cousy today, but Bob Cousy was from the next high school over. Not that I played in high school, but people would talk about Cousy with these long arms, whipping a pass behind his back. So it was either an insult or a compliment is to say Cousy, meaning you're getting fancy, only he could do it. Cousy and Dick McGuire were of my era, playing schoolyard basketball in the mid-'50s, but now you move, generations forward and look how the game progresses. I just think that soccer probably continues to progress. I mean, I saw things in the 80s that maybe you didn't see before that. I saw Roberto Baggio playing, great playmaker, and I saw him playing with George Weah of Liberia on Milan, AC Milan, in one season. I saw him make a pass, probably along with Maradona's pass to Caniggia, the most beautiful pass I've ever seen at that level. going through people and just landing at the feet of George Weah. How do you compare all that stuff?
Yeah, well, we grew up.
No, go ahead.
We grew up with the Cosmos and who they picked up along the way. So I mean, I've always looked at the Cosmos as like a superstar team. It didn't last too long, but that's how I remember them a lot. Beckenbauer and Canalia and a whole bunch of other people. So
I mean, what a wonderful era that was. You guys, I never saw them until the last couple of years in the early 80s when Pele was gone and they were running out of gas. I mean, I loved Canalia, and the Italians would sneer at him. They would call him the Welshman because that's where he grew up. But for that time and place, Giorgio was the star, was the king, and he just backed his big butt into the near the goal and would collect the ball and then beat the goalie somehow. And it was great to watch. But I never saw Pele play.
Oh wow!
No, I know. I've met him a number of times. I mean, he's just a charming guy. I would put him, right up there with Ali for being in the presence of somebody who's a king, an ancient king or a prince with a laugh and a smile and magnetic personality, and they were aware of you. They weren't looking down at you.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, that's a great way to describe Pele. Is that he's one of those few people where you can use the term it's his world and we only live here. Yeah. But he doesn't treat people that way. He's a very inviting and warm and very gracious guy.
Were you around Hofstra when he got an honorary degree? This is now. Oh gosh, I can't remember. But they were having some kind of. They were giving him a degree. This is Pele.
Yeah, it was when the Cosmos came back to play at the field at Hofstra. Right, they gave him an award.
So they were having this thing in the beautiful Shakespearean auditorium there, and Pele was like an hour late. So everybody, 1,000 people are sitting, or whatever, are sitting in this auditorium waiting for Pele. Finally, he shows up. First thing he does is go. There were a couple of Brazilian female volleyball players recruited from Brazil to play for Hofstra, and they were his guides. So he comes, and he's having a great time chatting with them as he goes up on the stage. And immediately, the whole place just fell in love with the guy, the magnetism of him. Sorry I'm late, or whatever he said. And then they were off and running. But he was just terrific, telling stories. Lit up the whole auditorium.
Well, let's talk about Maradona and some of his excesses, because that is part of his charm. We should say that Argentina is having a 3-day shutdown, basically.
Morning period.
A morning for Maradona. So that doesn't happen for many players.
Doesn't happen for many people.
No,
yeah, that's true.
There's only one of him. And in Argentina, that is just the way it is.
So what are some of the things that he went a little excess on along the way?
Obviously, drugs were a problem, and there were rumors early on. A prodigy like that, I would compare him in the long run. I don't know if you've ever seen the film or the play Amadeus about Mozart,
yes,
and about a child genius who was coddled along the way. People fuss over him. He can have anything he wants, and he develops, never develops an adult personality. Drugs were even more available in Maradona's time than whatever was for Mozart. But the same idea, totally spoiled at 15, 16, 17, 18, wine, women, song, and, Lord knows what else he put in his system. So he was out of control, except on the field. And once in a while he'd have a bad game and somebody would just excuse it. But he clearly had all the bad habits you can imagine. And it also, if you're ingesting drugs, it also puts you at the mercy of the people who supply them, which in Napoli, there's some tough people there. So clearly he had all kinds of connections to make sure he was protected, but also supplied.
George, I wanted you to talk about Napoli a bit. That was, I don't know if it was maybe expected that Maradona would find a home there, but can you just talk about a little bit about why that city embraced him like they did, and why he in turn loved Napoli so much?
I think they were made for each other. the city and the man. I mean, he was a raucous character, doing it his own way. Napoli is like no other city. I mean, it's first of all, it's in the south, and Italy, you could say it's divided in many ways, but certainly there's a north-south divide there, where people from really south, from Sicily or the south of the mainland, are called Terroni, which is sort of our, hillbilly or redneck singer. So Maradona picked up on that right away, coming to Napoli to play in whatever it was, 82, and or 84, I guess maybe. And he would say, "I am a Terrone. Io sono Terrone." I am because that's the personality. He understood that, and Napoli's a tough town. It's a port town. It also was settled by the Greeks and has a different. The team is called the Parthenope, the people of the Parthenon, meaning that's it's an other city. It's a different way of life, and there's certainly even the how can I say it? The outlaws, the tough guys of Napoli, are beholden to something called the Camorra, which is the Neapolitan version of the mafia, as I understand it from a big distance. But it's just a tough place. I mean, when my wife and I were there in 1990 for the World Cup, we were living in Rome, but we traveled around. So I brought her down for a couple of days for a match, and we were taking a walk down by the port. And she had a nice little bracelet around her necklace, and not totally dressed up, but just looking nice. And as we were walking, two little old ladies in black dresses, the old ladies that you see at every European city, and they're waving their finger at her, index finger, and they're saying, "Signora, no, è peligroso. It's dangerous to wear that thing because they have bad kids, bad teenage kids, 12, 14-year-old kids." Roaming the city, just doing all kinds. They're selling you cigarettes, or they'll swipe something off your table, or coming by on a little motorbike, or whatever it is.
Right.
They are called scunizzi. There's a statue of a scunizzo, a single tough kid in the downtown, in the harbor area of. It's like the symbol, the logo of Napoli. So these two old ladies were warning her, "Signora," and she took their warning seriously.
That's horrible, brother. We're Italian. What are they doing? Beating on people?
Well, that's But on the other hand, it is part of the charm of the place. In Italy, the north-south thing, when a team from Napoli or even Rome plays in the north, plays in Milan or Torino, the signs go up, or Florence. The signs go up saying "Benvenuto all'Italia," meaning "Welcome to Italy," and they're making the point that somewhere north of Rome, the real il vero Italia begins.
I mean, it's kind of like the separation for New York. I know a lot of people who live upstate who would love to blow up New York right below Westchester.
Well, exactly. It's two different worlds. I mean, a lot of places are like that, where it's divided into into different regions. But it's very real there. And to say nothing of the racist signs. I don't know today, but haven't been in Italy in a while. But the racist signs you would see if the other team had a black player as a leading player, something like that. But even Southerners are regarded, in almost a racial way.
Right.
Oh wow.
George, my last question for you is, just can you talk up a little bit about just Maradona's post-playing career? He seemed like. And we've seen this before, but he seemed like one of these incredibly talented athletes who, once his playing career is over, he just kind of was constantly looking for something to do and something to where he could be at that same level, but not on the field. Where he tried coaching, obviously he did. He's done a few things, but none of it obviously matched the success that he had. And it seemed like, and you wrote this in one of the stories that I saw, but you saw when you said he just kind of fell apart right before our eyes. And this happened over probably a couple of decades, actually.
Oh, certainly. I mean, he was falling apart as a player. He was starting to miss. One game he walked off after in Napoli, walked off after 21 minutes or something like that. Just didn't feel like playing that day, and I've had enough. So he was physically not in great shape. To see him as a 18, 19-year-old or 20-year-old, whenever he got to Europe, somebody did a film of him warming up before a game. They had rock music on, and he was like a male dancer in a strip joint. Not that I've ever been to one, but the point being that kind of show that he was putting on with his little body, but he didn't have an ounce of fat on him. And he could control the ball so well, and he was just showing off every inch of his body in uniform, of course, but loving the attention, rock musician, that kind of thing. And then to go from this whipping of an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever he was, to being an old man 5 years later, 8 years later. And obviously, the beatings that he took from Gentile in the 1980, Claudio Gentile beating the daylights out of him for 90 minutes. Physically, it took but also the drugs, the eating, the bad habits. I mean, the man wore out before his time. And what was he prepared to do? When did he stop going to school? Age 10, age 12, age 14, we don't know. But he certainly was not prepared for anything off the field or even around football. Some guys become, a guy named Rummenigge, who was the star of Germany in 1982. He's now the president of Bayern Munich. He's an executive. He's a suit. Some guys grow old and they stay in the game. Beckenbauer stayed in the game a long, long time. Other people like that. But there was no future for Diego Armando.
Right.
That's too bad. Well, George, we appreciate you coming on. We wanted you for 20 minutes. We got you for 25, so we're happy with that. My pleasure, my honor. You got my number. Nice talking to you all. We're going to talk a couple of minutes about Tottenham. And you follow Premier League, or are you?
Oh, yeah. I not as much this year, but I have friends who root for all the good teams. I have friends for Tottenham, Liverpool. I have a grandson who loves Liverpool. And I have friends who are Arsenal fans. They're having a tough time this year. So I've never been able to choose a team in England. There are just too many teams.
Well, I picked Liverpool because the Beatles came from there. But I know Everton's there too. So
what's your team?
Liverpool.
He's a Liverpool supporter because he's a big Beatles guy.
Well, and I know a couple of friends who are into Liverpool, so because they live in Liverpool.
My mom was born in Liverpool, but she said they were really from Southampton. That's another story.
Well, we thank you for joining us. Is eight World Cups still out there?
It's out there. I doubt that there's 10 or 12 in your local bookstore, but it's probably out there. It's out there in paperback, where I incorporated the 2014 World Cup. It came out in 15 or 16, ready for the next one, and I updated it with the 2014 stuff. But
oh wow, we have to get that then.
It exists. It's fun.
Okay, we'll have to look for the paperback then.
Soccer.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for joining us, George. George Vecsey, everyone.
Well.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
Longtime writer for the New York Times, now has a blog at georgevecsey.com. Of course, he is the author of 8 World Cups. Look for the paperback. It has even more 8 cups in there. So we appreciate that. Okay, brother. What do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about the weird boxing match between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr.?
I have to tell you, brother, before this shambolic, to use a British word, event, I honestly thought, I don't really talk about it too much because I think it was a joke, but I thought honestly that Mike Tyson was going to seriously injure Roy Jones Jr. Like to the point where he might kill him, because
he looked good.
Mike Tyson trained hard for this fight, and there were videos out there of him training and looking pretty ready to fight. And then I saw Roy Jones in a picture a day or two before the fight, and my first reaction was, hey, look at what finally happened. I'm in better shape than Roy Jones Jr.
Right.
Which was frightening to me, because Roy Jones Jr. in his prime obviously was a specimen. Now,
yes, he was.
Now he's 210 pounds, and as far as I know, he's about 5'9". So I was genuinely frightened for Roy Jones Jr.'s safety. But he and Mike Tyson fought to a draw. I'm still not sure how they came to that conclusion because everybody whose reaction that I saw said that Tyson won the fight. So I guess the result didn't really matter.
I don't think I don't think Tyson minded that it was a draw. He looked actually pretty happy it was.
It doesn't go on his permanent record. So what does he care?
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, they had 2-minute rounds, not 3-minute rounds, and there was a couple other reductions along the way. I mean, I didn't think they punched bad, considering how they're, doing what they're doing. But it wasn't George Foreman boxing at 45.
No, I mean it was an exhibition, and it was put on. It was put on to get make some money. I don't know how much Tyson got paid. I don't know how much Jones got paid. I don't know how much Nate Robinson got paid for getting knocked out. So it was. I don't even know how to respond to it because it was just like a made for pay-per-view event. And I mean, I tell you, Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, they did a nice job. And Nate Robinson probably had suffered the most damage on that night. Nate got knocked out by some YouTube guy named Jake Paul, who he's 23. Nate Robinson is what, 36 or 38 or whatever. And when I say Nate got knocked out, I'm talking lights out. I'm not talking about like he couldn't get up at 10. He was out. The lights were off.
Yeah,
and as soon as he hit the canvas, that was referee waving his arms and hey, get a doctor in here because Nate's in trouble. And
well, you get punched that hard, and even if you're in shape, you're much older. It's going to affect you.
Well,
so
that's
I was very worried for him, and the thing that bothered me again is everything in boxing's pay-per-view, and boxing isn't followed anymore the way it used to be. Find someone who knows who the champions are. You don't
because
know.
there's not a great heavyweight right now. That's why.
Yeah, but that's true. But also, you would think that there would be a fighter that people would know at least. Tyson. Everyone knew who Tyson was. Everyone knew who Ali was. They didn't have pay-per-view really for Ali, but Tyson they did.
Well, I mean, they had closed circuit television back then, so
yeah, which was sort of the same way. I mean, but I don't know. I just get bothered by pay-per-view a lot because I think it's really destroyed boxing in the way that they thought they were going to make a lot of money, and now no one cares. That's the difference.
In a manner of speaking, there's some truth to that. I think though, when you have a fighter who has that magnetism. And that's a rare thing. And I think that's what we're seeing now,
right?
Is that there aren't a lot of fighters. Like Roy Jones Jr. was a great fighter. Did he have that kind of magnetism? I don't really think he did. But he was a great fighter that fans loved to watch.
Yep.
But if you had to name a fighter or a boxer who's like that now, there really isn't one. I mean,
I agree.
And you might even have to go to MMA to get guys like that. And
MMA does a lot of on air stuff, and there's fights every 3 months. It seems championship fights, and I know it's different.
Fights every 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I think they wound it up a little better, so people know who these guys are. But then again, all their fights end up really, really fast. So.
Because their fights are usually about 5 rounds or so.
If that,
but they're 5-minute rounds. So I mean, it's a longer. It's a similar amount of time overall, but it's you don't have any place to hide if you're in a round like that because that round is going to keep going on.
Right, right.
And they're looking for a knockout or they're looking for a submission. That's the point of the longer round.
Right, and let's talk about MLS, brother. The season's coming to an end soon. Obviously,
we're getting there, brother.
It's going to go into December, but as we mentioned last week, part of it has to do with the fact that the season started later.
December is tomorrow, brother.
Yeah, so that's part of it. I mean, to me, I understand. As you know, I'd like it to end more like the end of October. Give them some time off. But
we'll get Commissioner Garber on. We'll get Commissioner Garber on for you, brother.
Yeah, well, I'd love to interview him.
You can have a conversation with him.
Well, you know how the way we grew up playing soccer, brother. So we like it. We went to games and we went to see the Cosmos. We saw
exactly.
We actually went to see games. So
yes,
and we
were at Pele's last game.
We were at Pele's last game, and we were at that game where Pele returned to Hofstra when we went to the first game of the season.
Right.
For the NASL. NASL, yes.
Yes.
So, what's going on with Major League Soccer, brother? Who's what there?
Well, the New England Revolution, brother, a team that I thought didn't even belong in the playoffs, has now advanced to the Eastern Conference Final. That happened as a result of a 3-1 win over Orlando SC on, I think it was yesterday. The Revolution were the 8th seed and had to play in a play-in game to qualify for the playoffs, and then stunned number 1 seed Philadelphia Union, who a lot of pundits thought were going to win the title this season. So they were done after one game.
Right.
But now the Revolution will face the Columbus Crew, who defeated Nashville 2-0 in overtime. So that sets up one half of which team, that's the conference final, the Eastern Conference final. They will play the winners of, they will play each other, and then the winner of that will face the Western Conference final. First game of which will be played tomorrow, and then on Wednesday will be the second. Tomorrow we will see the Seattle Sounders face off against FC Dallas. And then on Wednesday, Sporting Kansas City, which is the number 1 seed in the West, will face Minnesota United. So I think we might be looking, numbers-wise anyway, seeding-wise, we're looking at Sporting Kansas City against Seattle Sounders. But as usual in the MLS playoffs, it gets crazy. Seeds don't mean a whole lot in the playoffs.
Yeah,
usually the number 1 seeds don't get there.
They should. Anyway, brother, Tottenham, what happened to him over the weekend?
A rather lackluster 0-0 draw with Chelsea. Tottenham's manager, Jose Mourinho, he is known for his defensive strategy, and sadly that was what Tottenham did on Sunday. They allowed Chelsea possession. Chelsea dominated the possession, but really didn't do a whole lot with it. Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris was forced to make really one save. Nice diving to his left to stop Mason Mount. And Tottenham had a good chance. Serge Aurier forced a diving save out of the Chelsea goalkeeper Mendy. And that was it. I mean, there really weren't a lot of chances. There was a lot of square passes, a lot of back passes, and 90 minutes of not all that exciting action, so to speak.
Well, it's part of the fun of watching, Premier League. It's never exactly the way you want it.
But that result puts Tottenham back in first place. So that's really all that matters. And that's because Liverpool wound up in a 1-1, very disappointing 1-1 draw with Brighton.
Okay.
Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp was heard whining again about injuries after the match. Klopp, I like Klopp, and if it ever happened, I would love it if Klopp would become the manager of Tottenham. But last year, when Liverpool dominated the league and really didn't have many, if any, injuries, Klopp was not hurt. He was very quiet, and now he's actually blaming the media for his club's woes. Now, I get it that the schedule is what it is, and the schedule is due in part to entities such as Sky Sport and the BBC and whatever. But stop whining. You can't blame the media for your team.
But it's easy to blame them. That's why he's doing it, brother.
Blame FIFA. Blame. I mean, first of all, I don't know why the Premier League has gone away from 5 substitutes, because that helps with injuries. And that is something that the managers or the clubs should have voted on and said, look, we want to keep this. But I'm already getting tired of Jurgen Klopp's whining. You won a title last year. You won the Champions League the year before that.
Right.
Please, you've had all kinds of success. Now to sit here and whine like he has been for the last several weeks, it's getting old in a hurry.
Well, it is, but then again, it's always the easiest thing to blame the media, and they don't even meet the media, so it's easier for them. It's not like you, when you come in,
But he's doing it with a Sky Sports reporter. Like he's telling him, you're the problem, and it's like, if you're going to sit there and pick on one guy with a microphone, well, no, he didn't make the decision. Well, he has nothing to do with it. It's not him.
He's doing what Trump did. Anyway, we're out of here, brother, because Sean is turned up in one of our pictures. Anyway, you've been listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. From the press box, my name is Rob Leonard. He is Tim Leonard. This show will go up later as a podcast. We thank George Vecsey for joining us. Get his book, 8 World Cups. It's a really good book. Take care and bye-bye.